Good morning, dear students. MVR College of Engineering Technology proudly presents you the online classes for the students of civil engineering students. We are the faculty members of Department of Civil Engineering, and we are part of MVR College of Engineering and Technology. The subject for final years is groundwater development. This is a first class, and topic is introduction. I would like to introduce myself. Myself is B. Kader Muhammad. I had my post-graduation degree in geology and PhD, pursuing PhD in groundwater in Adikavinana University. And I hope you have idea about the groundwater development. Why? Because you already studied this subject in water resource engineering, engineering geology, and other subjects from your previous background. Okay, groundwater development is nothing but you have to develop the uh, groundwater for the future generations. Water is a renewable resource, no doubt about that. But if you keep on if you keep on using water without without any limits, though it is a renewable resource, it may turns into the non-renewable if you use water as a or as a unlimited resource. Okay, water is an unlimited resource, no doubt in that, but groundwater is a limited resource. That's why everybody has to, everybody has to protect the groundwater. Syllabus, according to the syllabus point of view, unit 1, it consists of two parts. Okay, unit 1 consists of two parts: introduction and well hydraulics. In introduction, groundwater and hydrological cycle, groundwater occurrence, aquifer parameters and their determination, general groundwater flow equation. So second part is well hydraulics, steady radial flow and unsteady radial flow to a well and confined and unconfined aquifers. The solution Jacob and Chow's method, leaky aquifer. This is about the syllabus, and well hydraulics is a mathematical part. I hope you are having a mathematical background because you are an engineer which studied mathematics in first year and in your intermediate classes also. So no problem for me to explain these mathematical phenomena or mathematical fundas in coming classes. Okay, well hydraulics is completely a derivative part. You already know about the derivatives, and first part, that is introduction, is nothing but a theory part. You have to concentration on, you have to concentrate theory also. You have to concentrate on well hydraulics also. Why? Because these two are very important to understand derivative concepts. You have to have know the you have to know the theory concepts also very clear. Next, learning objects. What you will learn from this PPT, you will get complete idea about the groundwater occurrence. You will get types of aquifers, aquifer parameters, that's like measurement of coefficient of permeability of soil. All these things will not cover now, but the things which are essential to understand these topics will be given in this PPT. Okay, in an explanation manner. We will move to the next slide. Introduction. So I hope you already know that water is a renewable resource, and I hope you understood that water is a renewable. Though it is renewable, mankind and demand from mankind about the water increases or increased day by day. Why? Because day by day the population is increasing. Day by day the needs of the people are also increasing. That's why needy needy need is increasing. That's the thing. The groundwater exploitation is now in a over exploitation stage. Groundwater has to be exploited, no doubt in that, but in present scenario groundwater is in an over exploitation stage. Okay, if you use anything in an over manner, it will be consumed and it will not you know it will take some times to regain its position in nature. That's why over exploitation of anything is dangerous thing. Groundwater, coming to the groundwater point of view also, over exploitation is also a danger thing. That's why usage of water should be limited by the usage of water should be limited by the uh, municipal authorities and all. Okay, people has to be people should be in a manner to use water like a precious thing. Otherwise our exploitation will not be go from nowadays. Will not go anywhere if our exploitation is still continue for longer years. There is no question of groundwater. Okay, that's why our exploitation you know should be minimized by giving by educating the people in different scenarios. You have to educate the people with different modules. Then that education will be used to control their usage of water. That's why I'm telling you that people should be educated in the usage of water. Water is Though water is a renewable resource, keep in mind that water is a renewable resource, but our exploitation of anything is a dangerous thing. Nowadays, groundwater is our exploiting. This is the danger thing. So first, I would like to give a definition. What is groundwater? The water which is present in the subsurface is known as the groundwater. Simply groundwater is nothing but the water which is present in the subsurface is known as the groundwater. So now I would like to give some brief statistics. So water is a life for every organism on this earth. Okay, some animals can live without water. Don't take it that into consideration. Some animals maybe no, I think no animals will not survive without water. Okay, every organism on this earth needs water for their lives. I would like to give you statistics. It is found that 97.2% of water on our planet occurs in seas, and nearly 2% occurs in ice bodies. Nearly 2% occurs in ice bodies. Here the spell mistake is there. Just correct for yourself. No doubt, no problem for this. So, according to the surface waters, 97.2% of water is salt water, which will not useful for humans. First, we have to give which will not useful for every organism. It will not useful for every organism. Humans are not there. Humans will not consume their will not consume that salt water. If you do reverse osmosis process, you can turn that salt water into fresh water, but it involves so much of money to convert that salt water into fresh water. So that water will not be useful. 97.2% of water will not be useful for mankind, but it gives, without oceans, there is no balance between there is no question of climatic changes are there. Without ocean, there is no question of climatic changes. Okay, 90. You have to keep in mind that 97.2% of water is not useful for the humans to drink. Okay, to use for household things. Okay, for washing purpose, it will not be useful. Nearly 2% of occurs in the ice bodies. Nearly 2% of occurs in ice bodies. So occurs, you can't, you can't get water from ice bodies. Whenever, when you will get water, from ice bodies, whenever it melts with a certain rate only, you will get water. So it is also not useful resource for the mankind. First one is the sea water is not useful for the mankind for consumption purpose, and nearly 2% of water occurs in the is bodies. It is also not useful for mankind. So 97.2 plus 2 equal to 99.2. Remaining 0.8% of water resource will be there. We will see what that 0.8% will, what that 0.8% will represent. So the remaining 0.8% occurs as surface water and groundwater. So in that 0.8 also share is there. In that 0.8 also share is there. It that uh, share is between groundwater and surface waters. So of this 0.8%, one third is in the form of surface water, and two thirds is in the form of groundwater. When compared to the surface waters means you have to calculate the water bodies volume of rivers, fresh water of rivers, ponds, lakes, etc. Okay, only fresh water should be calculated. So one third is surface waters and two third is in the form of groundwater. So compared to the surface waters, groundwater volume is more. Groundwater volume is, that's why man get benefits, so many benefits from groundwater exploitation from ancient times to recent. Without groundwater, he can't survive his life. That's why groundwater exploitation is an essential thing in the life of a man. That's the thing we have to see in our. Okay, groundwater is a essential part of every human. Why I am telling like this is, without groundwater there is no survival of man with the limited surface water resources. Okay, we will move on to the next slide by seeing advantages of using groundwater. Groundwater exploitation much more advantages than using surface water. Many seasons. So surface water were not uniformly distributed throughout the world. So compare uh, Andhra Pradesh. So many districts were there in Andhra Pradesh. One of the district is Anantapuram district, and one of the district is Krishna district. Krishna district is having number of small rivers, and the big river is nothing but Krishna river. That Krishna river is huge water body that flowing through Krishna River. That's why recharge availability is there for groundwater in district. That's why you will get water. That's why you will get water easily, and you will get water easily and in Krishna district rather than in Anantapuram district. Anantapuram district water availability is less. There is no such significant river flowing in Anantapuram district. That's why in Anantapuram district water scarcity is there. Okay. If you see the water table depth in Krishna district, it is close to the surface only. Whereas in Anantapuram district, you need to go very depth to catch the to catch the water table. So whereas in the Krishna district, the water table depth is very less. Whereas in the Anantapuram district, the water table depth is very high. So basing on the depth point of view, basing on the water depth point of view, recharge is an essential part, playing a crucial role in the water table depth scenarios. Okay, one place, if a place is blessed with the rivers like Krishna district, groundwater availability is plenty, and it will give, it will be close to the water table of Krishna district is close to the surface, whereas in the case of Anantapur district is very depth. You will found water table at high depth from surface. That's why depth will be high. The number is high. Okay. Second point, in groundwater natural filtration process prevailed. So when groundwater travels from surface to the subsurface, it has to reach, and it has to come in contact with number of many sedimentary layers. Nothing but these layers will act as a filtration process. These layers will filter the surface water, and the groundwater you will get a pure water. Because of this, you will get pure water whenever it travels from surface to the subsurface, and natural filtration will be occurred. Okay. Next, to stop or store surface water, one must use constructions like dams and barrages. Those dams and barrages will be advantageous for mankind. Okay, those dams and barrages will be advantageous for mankind to store that water. That water will be utilized for many purposes. I would like to give a brief sketch. Dam water, nothing but reservoir water. Dam is a wall-like construction constructed across the river to store the water. That stored water is known as the reservoir. That reservoir water utilized for many purposes. I would like to give some definitions, some purposes I would like to give you. First purpose is dam water will be utilized for dam water will be utilized for agricultural purpose, industrial purpose, drinking water purpose. That water will be utilized for navigation purpose. That water will be utilized for fishing purpose, aquaculture purpose. That water will utilize to control the floods. So flood control is the main aspect here. Okay, flood control is the main aspect here. To control the floods, you have to stop the flow in upstream side. Whenever you stop the water in upstream side, downstream side floods, the occurrence of floods will be less. Okay, flood occurrence will be very less. So downstream side it will be safe if you construct a dam. Other, if a dam is not there, or if a barrage is not there, every year in the rainy seasons you will experience floods like Like in the case of Krishna barrage and in the case of Prakasham barrage, every year in the rainy seasons, downstream side at Krishna river and downstream side of Godavari river, hugely damaged by the hugely damaged by the floods every year. That's why Sardar Gardens are constructed. The Dholesham Barrage and Prakasham Barrage. He is a part of construction. He has a part in construction of Prakasham Barrage. Wholly constructed, wholly, fully constructed Dholesham Barrage. So after construction of Dholesham Barrage, he could save, or he saved, not could he could save if he construct Dholesham barrage, and he constructed. Now he saved many lakhs of lives of people by constructing Dholesham barrage. Okay, that's why I'm telling you, visit Dholesham barrage and Prakasham barrage once in rainy seasons. You will see the beauty of the nature, and you will see the power of water, and you will see the, you know, the beautiness in the high water levels in these barrages. What is barrage? What is the basic difference between barrage and water, barrage and a dam? You guys know what is the difference between barrage and a dam? If you know, I am happy. If you don't know, I will give you the answer now. So barrage is a construction which constructed to divert the water, okay, to divert the water from the barrage. So barrage purpose is not to store the water, okay, remember, barrage purpose is not to store the water. Barrage purpose is only to divert the water, whereas in the dam constructed to store the water. That's the thing you have to know. Dam is wholly constructed to store the water. Barrage is constructed to divert the water levels from that place. Okay, that is the thing you have to know about barrages and dams. Okay, we'll move to the next slide. This is the hydrological cycle. You already know cycle is a cyclic process is nothing but interconnected process. It moves from top to bottom, and it starts again at top, and it moves bottom, and from bottom it starts from top. Okay, it is a linking process. So you are seeing the slide, simple hydrological cycle diagram. It is a simple hydrological cycle diagram. First, water body, 97.2% of water is in the form of oceans, and according to the statistics, earth surface area is occupied by oceans is 71%. Only 29% of land is available for mankind. Okay, so 71% of the land area is occupied by the oceans only. That is salt water bodies only. From oceans, you are seeing evaporation here. You are seeing evaporation here. See, this is evaporation. Why evaporation will takes place? Why? Because of the temperature, water get heated, and water will changes its state from liquid to the gaseous. That gaseous will go to the go into the atmosphere and forms clouds. From clouds, the precipitation will come. Precipitation is nothing but the rain. Rain will come. So this is the one cycle. You are seeing this cycle. Okay, this is the cycle, one cycle. This is the one cycle. So precipitation. So cycle is completed here. And next cycle, after evaporation, that water forms a clouds, and those clouds were transported from this place to this place and came into the mountains. came into the mountains. So from there, uh, on the top of the mountains, clouds were formed, and those clouds precipitated the water on the mountain top mountains. That water will traveling downstream sides and forms a lake. You are seeing lake here, forms a lake. From lake you are seeing a river is flowing in this direction, a river is flowing in this direction. And see another thing, so from surface runoff, percolation will be there. Percolation is nothing but the infiltration. So from mountain tops to the bottoms, and tops to the hillock area to the foothills area, the water will percolate into the subsurface. So in this process water will be purified. Okay, from percolation groundwater flow will occur. That groundwater flow again reaches the ocean bottom. Okay, so from lake you are seeing a river is flowing in the east west direction. Okay, river is flowing in the east west direction, that to west from east, that to west from east, and simply river will meet the ocean. Okay, the cycle forms here: evaporation to precipitation, precipitation to percolation, percolation to the flowing, everything will reach to the ocean. This simple concept is known as the hydrological cycle. The simple concept is known as the hydrological cycle. See the word, cycle here. Cycle is nothing but, there is no gap between the incidents or processes. If you found any gap, cyclic process will not be fulfilled. So that's why hydrological cycle is a cyclic process between the water vapor, precipitation, percolation, like that. These things are involved in this. Okay. Now we will move into the next slide. Hydrological cycle, I think the concept will be over. Next, groundwater occurrence. Groundwater is that they exist in the pore spaces and fractures in the rocks and sediments beneath the unsaturated zone. The soil which can flow freely into well, tunnel, spring, etc. Groundwater occurrence mainly depends on porosity, saturated and unsaturated zones, permeability of soil, aquifer, storage quotient. So groundwater occurrence. Groundwater is the water that exists in the pore spaces and fractures in the rocks that sediments beneath the unsaturated zone of soil which can flow freely into a well, tunnel, springs, and etc. So I already told you the water which is present in the subsurface is known as the groundwater. So groundwater flow will be there in the pore spaces. If the pore spaces are interconnected, flow will be flow. If the pore spaces are interconnected, flow will be flow will be gentle and uniform and continuous. If the pore spaces are not connected, one by one, flow, there is no question of flow. Why? Because if flow is there, if interconnection is there, there you will find the flow. There you will find the flow. So there is no interconnection between the grains. Uh, you yourself telling that if you are not interconnected with the society, the information will not come from society to you, and the information of yours will not come to society. Likewise, if the flow is if the flow is continuous, it reflects that water gaps, pore spaces, interconnection is there. Okay, if the pore space interconnection is not there, if the pore space interconnection is not there, groundwater occurrence may not be possible. Okay, pore space should be interconnected, and fractures also should be connected, and sediments beneath fracture all should be connected in the rocks, and sediments beneath the rocks unsaturated which can flow freely into a well, tunnel and spring. So if you construct a tunnel, if you construct a well, the water will flow into a well when the pores are interconnected. If the pores were not connected, water will not flow into a well, water will get dried after some days or some years. Okay. Groundwater, on what factors groundwater occurrence will be dependent? First, porosity. First factor is porosity. Second is saturated unsaturated zones. Third factor is permeability of soil. Fourth factor is aquifer parameters. Next, fifth factor storage coefficient. For today, I would like to give a definition about the porosity. Porosity is nothing but the volume of voids to the total volume of rock. Okay, the volume of voids to the total volume of rock. Don't confuse with the word void. Void is nothing but a pore space. Void is nothing but a pore space. So volume of voids to total volume of rock, you will get a percentage. You will get percentage. That itself indicates that porosity is not having the units. So I would like to give again the definition. Ratio of the volume of voids, nothing but openings in a rock mass, to the total volume of the rock expressed in the percentage. Percentage means there is no question of units. Okay. So porosity may be in two types: primary or secondary porosity. Primary porosity means that porosity came to a rock from its origin, whereas the secondary porosity, after the formation of the rock, the porosity will be existed like in igneous terrains. In igneous rocks, porosity is very less, maybe 0.5%, whereas in some areas the igneous rocks give you the porosity of 30 or 40%. Why it came? Because the igneous rock in that particular area was crushed, in that particular area was fractured, in that particular area was jointed. That's why those joints will act as openings for the groundwater flow. So that's why some igneous rocks are not having porosity, like fresh formed igneous rock, and not weathered rocks will give you the porosity of only 0.5%. The weathered rocks and the jointed rocks, fractured rocks, cracked rocks, crushed rocks will give you the porosity of 30 to 40%. Those rocks will be very important to exploit groundwater. I would suggest a case study with the Maharashtra state. In Maharashtra, so many areas are basement area is nothing but Deccan traps. Deccan trap is nothing but igneous basalt, igneous rock, which is a basalt. Basalt is the toughest rock in all available igneous rocks. It is the best concrete and road metal, but unfortunately, we will not get basalts everywhere in the country. In North India, basaltic regions you will not find, but in South India, you will find some basaltic terrains. Okay, in basaltic terrains also, you are getting plenty of groundwater in plenty of groundwater in Maharashtra region. Why it happened? How it happened? It happened only because of the fractures, only because of the joints, only because of the cracks present in the igneous rocks. By genesis point of view, by origin point of view, basalt is having only a 0.1% of porosity. Then if it fractured, the porosity will goes to the 30%, 40%. In many areas, in many regions, basaltic terrains providing plenty of groundwater because of this fractures property only. Okay, next, saturated unsaturated zone. Saturated zone is nothing but a zone which is having the water, and unsaturated zone is nothing but a zone which is not having the water. Saturated zone, for example, a sandstone layer is a saturated zone, and a limestone layer is act as unsaturated zone. Only limestone is having water only if it fractured, or if chemical action present only, then it forms caves, and those caves were utilized, those caves were act as a groundwater reservoirs. Okay, permeability of soils is also important factor to decide the groundwater occurrence. If a rock is highly porous but not permeable, there is no question of expecting water from that rock. Okay, expecting water from the geological formation. For example, see, uh, the porosity of a uh, quartzite is granite quartzite is 1.5%, and slate is shale 4%, limestone is 5 to 10%, sandstone is 10 to 15%, sand with gravel is 20 to 30%, only gravel 25%, only sand 35%, only clay 45%. The last value is highest value, which is having the 45% of the clay, 45% of the porosity. Clay is having a porosity of 45%. Okay, it represents that clay is having more pore spaces than any other material on the earth surface, but clay is not a permeable material. You have to understand that clay is not a permeable material. That reflects that clay is not having interconnection between the pores, not having interconnection between the pores, nothing but openings, nothing but voids. That's why clay may having a 45% of porosity but not having permeability. Listen my words carefully. Clay may be having a 45% of porosity, but sandstone is having only 10 to 15% of porosity. If you dug a well in sandstone terrain, and if you dug a well in clay terrain, you will get water, continuous water supply from sandstones only. You will not get water supply from clay terrains. Why? Because clay, there is a porosity is there, that is with a high number, that is 45%, but in sandstone porosity is only limited 10 to 15%. But sandstone interconnection between the pore spaces were there. That's why sandstones will give you the continuous supply of water if you dug a well in sandstone layer. But whereas in the clay region, you will not get any water because of the permeability characteristic. Permeability is not in clay, but permeability is there in sandstones. Okay, aquifers. What is aquifer? Aquifer is nothing but a geological material which is having porosity and permeability. A geological material which is having a porosity and permeability, like sandstone. Sandstone is an aquifer which is a very good aquifer, and if you draw water, and if you get water from aquifer, it is highly beneficial. Why? Because aquifer water is sandstone's aquifer water is very benefit for mankind. So it is less polluted. Next, storage coefficient, nothing but it gives a mathematical value about the storage of the water. Okay, likewise groundwater occurrence mainly depends on these factors: porosity, permeability, saturated unsaturated zones, aquifer characteristics, storage coefficient. Like that, these will be deposited, these will be groundwater will be occurred. Okay, we'll move to the next slide. Types of geological formation. There are basically 4 types of geological formation according to the groundwater point of view only. According to the groundwater point of view, 4 geological formations were there: aquifers, aquitard, aquiclude, aquifers. In these 4, aquifers are having plenty of water, and aquifers is not having a single drop of water. Aquitard and aquiclude is having water, but they could not supply whenever we need. Okay, water is there. For example, see aquiclude. Here C is there, na. C represents, C represents aquiclude in aquiclude. And C is there, na. C represents clay. Means aquiclude is having highest porosity, but it is not having permeability, so it can't give you water. Okay, it can't give you water. See next the aquitard. Aquitard is nothing but a silt formation, that it is having water, it is having less water, and it will give you water very less. That's why it is having aquifer is having porosity and permeability. Aquitard is having less porosity and less permeability. Aquiclude is having only porosity, not permeability. Aquifuse is not having porosity and permeability. Okay. For aquifer, porous and permeable. Aquifuse, nor porous, neither permeable. Neither porous nor permeable. Okay. Aquitard, only less porous, less permeable. Aquiclude, only porous, not permeable. You have to memorize the things. Aquifer, for example, for the aquifer is sandstone. Example for the aquitard is sand plus silt. That material will act as aquitard. Example for aquiclude is clay, which is having 45% of porosity. Example for aquifuse is fresh formed igneous rock, that is neither porous nor permeable. Neither porous. That's why you have to understand these 4 definitions very carefully in the groundwater point of view. Aquifers, aquifuse, aquitard, aquiclude, and aquifuse. Aquifer is a groundwater reservoir composed of geological units that are saturated with water and sufficiently permeable to yield water in usable quantity wells and springs. Sand and gravel deposits, sandstone, limestone, fractured crystalline rocks are examples of the geological units that form aquifers. Aquifers provide 2 important functions: to transmit to groundwater from areas, to recharge to areas of discharge, to provide storage medium for usable quantities of groundwater. So this is, I already told you, aquifer is nothing but a highly porous and permeable material which can give you water whenever you need. If you dig a well, it will give you water. Aquifer will give you water. If you dig a well in aquifers, you will not get any water. Why? Because it is not permeable, nor neither porous nor permeable. That's why aquifers will supply water, and aquifers will recharge themselves by the surface waters, by flowing waters. If it is having the 2 capacities, it can give you the plenty of waters whenever it needed. Okay. Aquifers. So now would like to see the diagram of the aquifer. Types of aquifers: confined aquifer, unconfined. We will discuss these things in next class. I would like to show you the diagram. So this is the unconfined. This is the confined aquifer. This is unconfined. I will explain about aquifers and confined aquifers in the next class.